Hello, everyone. A very good evening to all of you. Welcome to ICF Singapore 2020. My name is Suman Balani, and I'm your host for this evening. For this evening session, we have invited a panel of master coaches who will join us at about 6:30 to share their journey towards becoming ICF Master Certified Coaches. So, to prepare ourselves to be fully present and receptive of all the learning, it is my pleasure now to invite Erin Lee, who is going to take us through a mindfulness session. So, let me tell you a little bit about Erin. Erin is the founder and mindfulness coach of Mindful Moments Singapore. She is a mindfulness practitioner and an advocate of mindfulness as a way of life. It is her personal vision to help more and more people learn mindfulness skills and incorporate mindfulness practice in their daily lives to improve their overall well being. Erin is a certified MBSR teacher who conducts mindfulness training for corporate clients and organizations in both English and Chinese. She's also trained to teach Be Mindfulness program to teenagers and young adults. Erin holds a Master of Science in Studies in Mindfulness with the University of Aberdeen, UK. She's also a professional certified stress management consultant from the Institute of Motivational Living. Erin, over to you, Erin.
Thank you very much, Suman, for the introduction. And hi, everyone. Good to see all of us again. And so this is our final mindfulness session for this ICF event, this conference. And so as we just, draw this event to a close, I'd also like to invite you to just bring your awareness back, right? So from wherever it has been to, whether it's thinking and processing and imagining and stuff like that, and just being able to come back to our body, to our present experience. All right. So I'm going to bring you through a session of body awareness. And then as a closing practice, I thought I would invite you to practice a little bit of gratitude, right? So you may be familiar with the practice of gratitude. This practice has a lot of benefits to our brain. It boosts our brain. It boosts positive moods in our brain. So I'd like to practice a little of that with you. And I'd like for you to just approach this gratitude practice with a lot of gentleness, with a lot of kindness. And so there's actually no need to force anything. So whatever that comes up for you in this experience, let's just notice them. All right? Okay? So for a start, we are going to just learn to come back to our body. Okay? And this will be in a sitting posture. So let's take a few moments to just get into our sitting posture on the chair. So I know in the afternoon I invited you to cross your legs. You can do that if you want to, but you don't have to now, right? So you can just sit as per normal. But I'd like to remind you to have our posture as wakeful as possible. So preferably your feet should be planted flat on the floor for more stability. And if possible, don't lean all the way back into the chair because you get a little bit too relaxed and you tend to want to doze off. Okay, so straightening the back, sitting up straight and tall, shoulders relaxing, and you can place the hands on your lap. Okay. For this entire practice, you can choose to have your eyes gently closed, or if you prefer, you may just lower your gaze to the floor and just softening your gaze, resting your gaze there. Right? And I'm going to use the sound of the bell to signal the start and end of our practice today. So let's begin by getting a sense of our body in this sitting posture. So just becoming aware of the overall shape and size of this body. Noticing the posture that the body has adopted. Becoming aware of the space around this body. The touch of the air against the skin. Noticing temperature. Maybe noticing movement. Getting a sense of the contact of your clothes against the body. Noticing contact that the body is making with the chair. The contact that the feet are making with the floor. And just opening your awareness to this entire body in this sitting posture. Paying attention to the presence of any physical sensations. Without the need to change anything in this experience. And just noticing the body for just the way it is. And now when you're ready, I'd like to invite you to bring your attention now to the top of the head. Just resting your attention now on the crown of the head. Becoming aware of the scalp, the hair. Moving your attention down to the back of the head. Noticing the sides of the head. Getting a sense of the ears. The temples. And then very gently shifting your attention now to the forehead. Moving down to the eyebrows. Noticing the space between the eyebrows. Is there tension? Is there tightness? Bringing your attention down to the eyes. Noticing the muscles around the eyes. The eyelids. The eyeballs. And then gently moving your attention down to the nose. Paying attention to the sides of the nose, the tip of the nose, and the nostrils. Pausing at the nostrils for a few moments to just notice the air flowing in and out as you breathe in and out. And now shifting your attention to the cheeks, paying attention to the cheekbones. Moving your attention now to the mouth area, noticing the lips, the inside of the mouth, the teeth, the gums, the tongue. And shifting attention now to the chin, noticing the entire jaw. Now when you're ready, moving your attention gently down to the throat area, noticing the inside of the throat. The air flowing in and out. Now when you're ready, shifting your attention to the shoulders. Just noticing the shoulders. Is there tension at the shoulders? Is there tightness? And then I'd like to invite you to just gently slide your attention all the way down the arms and all the way down to your 10 fingers, getting a sense of the thumbs, the spaces between the fingers, the back of the hands, noticing the palms, and then moving your attention to the wrists, getting a sense of the lower arms. And now directing your attention very gently to the elbows and moving to the upper arms. And now when you're ready, very gently sliding your attention across both shoulders and down to the upper chest area. And just paying attention to the movements of the breath at the upper chest area. Noticing the lungs, maybe even the heart. Very gently shifting your attention down now to the rib cage area. And then to the abdomen area. Once again, pausing here for a few moments, noticing the air flowing in and flowing out, the belly expanding, contracting as you breathe in and breathe out. And now when you're ready, gently dropping your attention now to the hips, paying attention to the pelvis area, noticing the bum in contact with the chair, and gently sliding your attention down to the thigh, paying attention to the skin, the muscles at the thigh. And then moving your attention down to the knees and seeing if you can locate the back of the knees. And what about the kneecaps? Just noticing the kneecap. And then moving your attention down now to the lower legs, paying attention to the calves, paying attention to the shins, and then moving further down to the ankles. Noticing the top of the feet, and then shifting downwards to the heels, tracing to the arch of the feet, the ball of the feet, and finally to the 10 toes resting on the floor. And then once again, when you're ready, we're going to expand our attention to the entire body in the sitting posture. And for the next few moments, just simply resting with your body, breathing in and breathing out. Resting with the natural breath. One breath at a time. And as you rest in this stillness, one moment at a time, I'd like to invite you to join me in a very gentle practice of gratitude and kindness. So I'd like to invite you to bring to mind now one person whom you are grateful for. One person you are grateful for. Perhaps this person has played a role in this difficult time, supporting you, always on your side. So just allowing this person to come to mind in whatever way that makes the most sense to you. And just joining me in offering some words of kindness, some kind wishes to this person that you're grateful for. And just allowing these words to be your own words. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe and at peace. And just noticing anything that comes along with sending these wishes, thoughts, emotions, sensations in the body. Remembering that you can always come back to your breath in the body. And now when you're ready, I'd like to invite you to bring yourself to mind now. In whatever way that makes the most sense to you, allowing yourself to come to mind. Taking a few moments to acknowledge yourself and your experiences in this journey. Acknowledging your presence right now in this space. And seeing if it's possible for you to extend these words of kindness to yourself. Allowing these words to be your own words. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe and at peace. And just noticing what comes up for you, thoughts, emotions, body sensations. And now when you're ready, I'd like to invite you to bring to mind a larger community. Perhaps this could be the community that you're grateful for for making this entire week of learning happen for all of us. Just getting a sense of this larger community, bringing them to mind in whatever way that makes the most sense to you. And join me in offering these words of kindness to this community, allowing these words to be your own words, including yourself in this offering of kindness. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May we be safe and at peace. And just noticing what comes up for you, thoughts, emotions, body sensations. Resting with whatever that is present in you from moment to moment, without the need to push anything away. Now, when you're ready, very gently returning your attention now to the breath in the body. Once again, opening your awareness to this entire body in this sitting posture. Breathing in, breathing out. Attending to one breath at a time. Now, when you're ready, allowing the sound of the bell to let you know the end of this practice. When you hear the sound of the bell, taking a deep breath in, and then opening the eyes. And just taking a deep breath in, fully exhaling, and allowing the eyes to completely open. Okay, thank you everyone. And this is our final practice for this week. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Erin. That was really very beautiful. I think we're all settled down and grounded right now. So looking at the time, we have 6 minutes more, everyone. So this is a time that you can go grab a glass of water, your glass of wine if you're ready with it, or to, use the washroom. So we'll resume in exactly 6 minutes. So you have 6 minutes to yourself now. We have a minute more before start, so get settled down and we're going to start the session soon. Counting down to 6:30. So right now we have 104 participants. And it is 6:30 now. So welcome everyone to ICF Singapore 2020. What an amazing week it has been. You know, I want to thank everyone for your presence and active participation. And you know, as they say, all good things must come to an end. And sadly, we are at our very last session for ICW 2020. My name is Suman Balani, and I'm your host for this evening. Today, we are indeed very privileged to have a panel of master certified coaches who will share their journey towards MCC. These are all very busy people, very hard to get them together, and so we're really grateful that they've all come together. Today, Dawn Rapley will do us the honors by being the panel moderator. And on today's panel, we are so privileged to have Lin Tan, who is the president of ICF Singapore, Tony Latimore, past president, Dr. Sabrina Andreas, also past presidents, Nancy Hughes, also past president, Rajiv Wij, and Jadar. So all of them are MCCs, and they will be part of the panel. Before we get going, there are some ground rules that I'd like to highlight to ensure a smooth and successful session. Throughout the webinar, please put your microphone on mute. All attendees will be on mute by default, except for the open floor segments. If you have a question or would like to share something, type it in the chat at the bottom of your screen, right? You can, because this is a panel discussion, it is our appeal to you to only type in and ask questions that are relevant to today's topic, which is the journey to MCC, right? So we urge you to just put in relevant questions, right? After the webinar, uh, we we will give you the feedback survey together with the CCEU screen, where you can take a screenshot and then complete your CCEU registration, right? I'll tell you a little bit more about that in the next slide. So CCEU's continuous coach education units, this policy is that we need live attendance for the full webinar, no issuance of partial CCEUs. Instructions to apply for CCEU are going to be given at the end of the webinar, so you need to wait till the very end. And we are encouraging you to apply within 24 hours from the time we end. And once all the certificates are ready for all the sessions, we will be sending them to you electronically. Okay. So before we continue again, we just want to be, thanking our sponsors. We have a platinum sponsor, Emergenetics. They have been so kind to offer us a gift package of $350 consisting of a profile and access to online resources, as well as a special webinar. So that will be sent to you next week. Please look out for the email. Imagenetics helps people and organizations to improve communication, collaboration, and culture, resulting in positive and productive workplaces. Also, a special thanks to our gold and silver sponsors. We had Gallup, who delivers analytics and advice to help leaders and organizations solve their most pressing problems. Combined with 80 years of experience with global reach, Gallup knows more about the attitudes and behaviors of employees, customers, students, and citizens than any other organization in the world. We also have the coaching app. Go check out the app at www.thecoachingapp.com. The coaching app puts C-suite executive coach in your pocket. The silver sponsors, the coach sponsorship has brought the new field suite of coach training programs to Asia since 2010. Newfield has been the world's leading ontological methodology since 1991, with over 65,000 graduates. Starting Point, the authorized provider of everything DIS certification solutions, 5 behaviors of a cohesive team, and building trust solutions. So thank you very much. We also have some schools who have contributed in terms of their sponsorship. So for those of you looking out to find schools, these are some names you can look out for. Okay, so I guess now we're kind of ready for me to introduce the panel. So first, our panel moderator, Don Rapley. He is the managing director of YTC, which he co-founded in 2016 to help organizations create a conversation culture and transform the way managers interact with their teams. Don has wide-ranging experience in leadership, training, and coaching roles in the multicultural and international environments. Having worked extensively across Europe, Asia, USA, and the Middle East, facilitating missions in over 30 different countries. Don is an active contributing member of the ICF Singapore chapter, and we're delighted to have him to moderate this panel. We couldn't have found anyone better.
Thanks very much.
Lynn is also on our panel and needs no introduction. She is the president of ICF Singapore 2020. She has been coaching since 2004 and is one of the 8 ICF Master Certified Coaches in Singapore and amongst the 1,000 in the world. She brings over 4,000 hours of coaching experience into her work with organizations and individuals. Lynn specializes in leadership coaching and training coaches. She is often sought out by leaders who want to build exceptional presence in teams. As a finalist for ICF Young Leaders Award in 2018, she's recognized as being in the top 11 around the world for her successful effort in progressing the coaching industry. In 2020, she received the top 101 Global Coaching Leader Award by the World HRD Congress. Lynn, nice to have you in this panel. Next, we have Tony Latimore. I'm sure all of you know him. He is the co-founder and past president of ICF Singapore. Tony has been an MCC. Let me put you on. Yeah. So he's been an MCC um, uh, since 2008, spending many years as an ICF assessor for PCC and MCC level. He creates sustainable coaching cultures within organizations working with C-suite teams in multinationals and senior government agencies. Since first training in a non-directive coaching in 1984, Tony has developed profitable leadership frameworks specific to the application of coaching within organizations for managers, internal coaches, as well as a democratized communication skill for everyone who interacts with others. Welcome on the panel, Tony Latimore. We are really happy to see you here.
Pleasure to be here, Simon.
Next, someone that I personally admire, Dr. Sabrina Andres. Sabrina is a past president of the International Federation Singapore chapter from 2009 to 2011 and continues to serve her professional community of practice through mentorship, supervision, and facilitation of adult learning in small and large groups. She has devoted the past 18 years to senior executive coaching and intact team development with over 4,500 coaching hours in diverse industries. Her clients include government agencies, pharmaceuticals, financial institutions, oil and gas, and a variety of business sectors. Within these organizations, she supports high potential programs, C-suite and senior executive development. With a PhD in organizational development and change, her area of interest focuses on leadership in Western multinational corporations located in foreign subsidiaries. Pleasure to have you here, Sabrina.
Thank you, Suman.
Another one of my favorites, Nancy. Nancy is one of the founding members of the Singapore chapter and was president of the board of the Singapore chapter from 2006 to 2008. She's an executive coach with over 20 years of experience in leadership development, including coaching, facilitation, and creating executive education programs. Known for her authentic, open, honest, and flexible approach, she enjoys challenging her clients to maximize growth. She works with senior to middle managers within large multinational and government-related companies. When clients partner with Nancy, they benefit from her significant international experience and cross-cultural awareness. Fluent in English and French, she has lived and worked in the United States, France, Taiwan, before settling now in Singapore. One of the founding members, so that's Nancy, and welcome, Nancy.
Thank
Great
you,
to have
Simon.
you.
Thank you very much.
Rajiv Ridge. Rajiv is a life and executive coach, author, and speaker. He has been an MCC for quite a few years. I forgot to ask you that question, Rajiv, but you can share later. He's a coach to senior leaders in Asia for several Fortune 500 companies, as well as some of the largest local organizations. He's the author of the book Discovering Your Sweet Spot, a soul searching guide for creating the life you really want. If you haven't got it, it's time for you to get that book. And is popular speaker at various business leaderships and special forums. Prior to starting his life as a coach in 2006, he served as MD Asia for Frankel Templeton Mutual Funds. A warm welcome to you, Rajiv. We're really happy to have you here.
Thank you, Suman.
And last but not least, we have Jedi. He is an exponential coach. He has empowered and equipped leaders, coaches, and influencers from across 5 continents with the art and science of conversational mastery. He's the founder of Coaching Changes Lives International, which has presence in USA, Latin America, and Asia, focusing on cross-cultural diversity and leadership in a VUCA world. With over a span of 13 years of coaching and impacting life, he has been actively helping individuals and organizations to build resilience and tenacity for the future economy. Welcome, Jada. Really good to have all of you here.
Really glad to be part of this tonight and hope to enjoy the session together.
So I'm going to ask all of us, before we get onto the panel, can we all get onto our videos because we need to take a group photo of everyone. We'd like to do that before, some people have to leave early. So it'd be great if all of you can put on your videos and we'll take the group photo. Team, are you ready?
Suman, you need to stop sharing your screen.
Yes, I'll do that right now.
Do you want them to have the sign or anything?
Yeah, so in the tradition of ICW, you can either show an I or a C or a W, right? So just choose the letter that you like and then we'll start taking pictures.
All right, here, go put on your best smile. I've got 7 pages to go through. Say cheese. Set screen. Off. One last one. All right, thank you guys.
That's cool.
All right, very good. So I think now, Don, it's all in your hands.
It's all in my hands. What a privilege.
Yeah.
So, hi, everybody. Look, I'm delighted to be here. This is an awesome panel. So we got 4 past presidents of ICF Singapore and 2 incredibly experienced coaches. So look, coming to the end of this amazing week, I'd just like to start off by saying hats off to Lynn, to Adrian, to Anne, to Jeddah, and all the organizing team. It's been an incredible achievement. And I've attended quite a few events, and we've seen that there are huge numbers of people. We've got 160 people on the session today, and there are new coaches, ACCs, PCCs, and a few MCCs from across the world. And everybody's throughout the week has been seeking to broaden their understanding of what it means to be a coach today and how we can all progress to that. How can we progress the profession of coaching? So we wanted to round off this ICW week by asking 6 of the Singapore MCCs to share their insights and perspectives into some of the key questions around mastery. What exactly does mastery mean, and why has achieving this been important for them? So we're going to listen to their personal stories. What is the journey that they've been taking? How can people in our audience, that's particularly important for you guys, how can you learn from them as they chart their own course in developing coaching competencies and maybe even one day attain MCC status? We've got quite a packed schedule tonight, and we've got 3 themes that we'd like to explore, and we're going to do that in 20-minute blocks. We'll be asking the panel to dig deeper into each of those 3 topics. and then a final 10 minutes wrap up where we're asking them to share their thoughts about what comes next in their own personal journey. The first theme that we're going to kick off in a minute is going to be around mastery. What is mastery? I'm going to ask the panel to share how they define mastery and in what way has achieving mastery helped them to develop themselves personally, but also to develop their business. The second theme we're going to look at is around the journey to MCC. How did they become an MCC, and what are some of the challenges and struggles that they faced? And also to get their perspective on how they see the difference between ACC and PCC, and maybe also how has the MCC definition evolved over the years. And then the last theme that we're going to be covering is how can the coaches in the audience attain MCC status? We'd love to hear the views from the panel about how coaches can decide whether MCC and mastery is right for them. What are some of the practices that they can suggest to coaches to develop and to put them on that path to mastery? So that's the plan for this evening. I just want to pick up on a couple of things that Suman said. Please use the chat. If you want to start a conversation going, react to what you're hearing, that's fine. We'll be scanning the comments and maybe picking out some of the themes. We know that the panel will be looking at the chat as we go through. But it's really important, if you have a question for somebody on the panel, please use the chat to ask a specific question. We won't be able to take all of the questions, but if there's some good ones, then we will pick those up and we'll introduce that during the session, probably towards the end of each 20-minute sequence. So that's the plan for this evening. And I'm going to kick off straight away into that first sequence. So what is mastery in coaching and why is it important? So I'm going to kick off with Sabrina here. And Sabrina, I know you've been continually striving to refine your coaching approach. I was listening to you in one of the chats in one of the sessions earlier this week, and you were saying that you're always looking for nuances and where you can grow and face your growth gap. So could you kick off by sharing with us how you see mastery and why it's important for you to strive for it?
Sure. So, mastery in the normal sense of the word normally means having a superior knowledge or skill. And in the context of coaching, it's not just simply the amount of practice, knowledge, or reflection. For me, I somehow feel that it's paradoxical. It's the ability to hold the client's agenda, yet let go of the agenda without an expectation of what it needs to be for me. And yet at all times, keeping the client in mind. So the image that really helps when I'm in front of the client is here I am in front of them, and on this side is my knowledge, skills, techniques, and tools. And on this side is my stuff, my internal dialogue, my human stuff. Right. And then what is left then is that I'm here in front of another human being, completely and utterly focused on their outcome. Right. And letting go of all that chat. I remember Tony talking about that in an earlier session at the beginning of the week. And that really requires me to be fully here and in the now, intentional towards the client's outcome, yet flexible to go with them into their inner wilderness, if you may call it, and come back changed from the experience. And the other thing I just really want to say is that at the same time, while ICF awards the title of MCC as the gold standard, I also feel that it's not a destination or an arrival point, and merely a doorway into the next level of growth, which is what I call the nuance. Yeah. I feel that although this title is an acknowledgement of an aptitude, the journey continues, and it really is a testament to, keeping on expanding and coming to terms with, my edge. And mastery is a continuous commitment also to evolve, right, and grow, because I firmly believe that I can only take my coachee as far as I'm willing to go myself. And really, I would love to ask Jedi, what you think about that, Jedi, because we recently met on this panel.
Yeah, it was really an amazing session that we had together with Sabrina. Yeah. So we're just bouncing some ideas, and this notion of mastery that we all had. Many of us think that mastery is like the end point, a destination, or an outcome they're trying to get. But really, for me, mastery is your beginning state. How you enter the conversation, how you enter your coach state. We talk about going from good to great, and I never really quite agree with going from good to great. You begin in greatness, you stay in greatness, and you pursue through the whole journey. In the pursuit of mastery as well, it's not an end point. You enter mastery, you continue mastery, and you still continue the journey. So mastery is not an endpoint, it's not a final destination. There are markers to achieve, but really it's a state. It's your emotional, psychological, physiological state that you enter in the conversation. And I love what ICF came about over the last year as well. Updating the core competencies and having this new competency called the coaching mindset. And really it's about the coach as well as the client both entering the conversations together and experiencing the dance and experiencing that flow, that enjoyable flow. So over the last couple of weeks when I met Sabrina as well and the whole panel of MCC people, we just had such great fun, a great conversational flow, and that's really what you want to experience. And really at mastery, it's not so much about the things you do, it's more about being. So you're going from doing to being, and you look across the whole different paradigm from ACC, MCC, ACC, PCC, MCC. It's really a paradigm shift from doing to being, and really it's about you being who you are on the inside of you, and really that will shine out. And so really at the MCC level, it's really about working in yourself much more than trying to work on the client or work on the issues at hand, because the further you go yourself, the further you can bring the client. And we always say this, right? How far you can bring your clients is really how far you in yourself first, because that's the journey of mastery. In the pursuit of mastery as well, you find this, Bruce Lee also says this, right? We're not afraid of a man who has 1,000 different kicks. We're more afraid of the person who has practiced the same kick 1,000 different times. And the journey of mastery is the patience that we have, that sense of verve that resolve inside of us to say, hey, let's pursue this, let's pursue excellence, let's pursue excellence in competence, let's pursue excellence in ourselves and our states. So that's to me what mastery is. And what do you think, Sabrina?
Yeah, totally. I mean, all the things that you said, it's working on ourselves. I totally believe in that, and what I pinned from what you just said was, you have the knowledge, the techniques that we learn, the being and the doing. We've talked about that all week. Yeah. And then the knowing, and sometimes that can get in the way when you're so busy thinking about all these different parts of technical know-how that we've been taught in the coach trainings and all the multitude other places that we go for our growth, and then it's just like, yeah, we kind of just got to let that kind of be on the back burner and then be in front of this other human and just, all of that drops away. Yeah.
And that's when the structure becomes the background, and you as the being becomes the foreground, and the client as well becomes the foreground. And that's what we call about the co-creative process and coaching conversation. And that's really something really exciting for us as coaches. It's many coaches came to us and asked us, hey, what are the questions we can ask at MCC level? What are the process we can ask? What's the structure like? When you ask that question, you have your premise is wrong. You begin in the wrong premise, because then you begin in a very formulaic approach. Really, the pursuit is really about understanding yourself more and being in that state. It's going to be much better.
That's great. Okay, thank you for that. Let's just move on. We've got another theme that we'd like to address, which is as an MCC, how has being an MCC helped you to develop yourself, but also your business? And I'm going to ask Lynn if you could respond to this one. Would you like to share with us how becoming one of the youngest MCCs probably in the region, how has that impacted not only your own development as a coach, but also what has been the impact on your business, this notion of mastery and becoming an MCC? Tell us about that.
So continuing the analogy of a journey, my journey didn't start when I got MCC. I think that just happened along the way. I started when I was 19. And it wasn't even something that I had in mind. The only thing that I wanted to do or wanted to be is to be just really good at coaching. I fell in love with coaching. I knew right from the get-go that this is what I wanted to invest my whole life energies in. I was so convinced, and I think because of that, everything about who I was in the past was just thrown out. Education, background, who I believed myself to be. I had to throw them out because wherever I was at that point wasn't going to be good enough to be able to coach with ease. And so it is that vision of being able to impact a person's life with ease that I think just drove me year on year until at some point I just clocked up, I guess, enough experience, or it's a timely thing where the credential came along. So I wouldn't say MCC developed me. It's actually the other way around. I developed myself with the help of people who believed in me, right? With the help of people who took a chance on me, and I felt that I needed to to live up to what they saw in me. So I think that's what helped develop. But in terms of business, it's also going to be the same thing. I think a lot of coaches kind of, I'm guessing, think that life is better on this side. It's not. I can only say that MCC has helped me in my business because you are just at the, you're just a bit higher above everybody else on the mountain, right? So you have people see you compared to if you're at the bottom where everybody else is, which is where ACCs are, and then PTCs are at the middle, and MCCs. And to be really honest, that is kind of the only reason why when people go to the ICF Singapore directory, and they just go to MCCs, and then there's only like 6, 7, 8 people there, of course, you're just more visible. But otherwise, it stops there, because if you don't have proper work ethics, if you don't know what you're talking about and you just have the title,
okay, it's not.
Clients are still not gonna engage you.
Yeah. And any thoughts, Lynn, on what we were talking about earlier on about mastery in coaching? Is that really important for you to keep on developing mastery even though you've reached MCC status?
I don't know what mastery is. I don't think I would ever know. I don't think anybody would ever know until you die and maybe you become enlightened after that. I don't know. So, difficult question to answer.
Okay.
This mastery here is just determined by a body called ICF. But what is it exactly? I don't know. All I know is that I want to expand who I am so that I can have more impact on the world, impact more people with less effort. That's what my game is.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, thanks for that, Lynn. Tony, let me come to you. We know that you're one of the founder members of ICF Singapore, and you've been at the forefront of developing coaches across the region. And you've also been an ICF assessor for a long time. You shared in one of the panel events the other day that how you'd observed that mastery was sometimes about letting go rather than being attached to our need to be right. I was curious about that. Do you want to expound on that? That's a really interesting concept. Could you tell us more and how that relates to mastery?
Yes, and I think Sabrina and Lynn have sort of touched on that as well. It is beyond the mechanics.
Right.
It's then about how you're being, how your connection, and how you just connect to everything around you. So I'll give you an equivalent. About 15 years ago, I was just getting ready to do black belt in the martial art discipline.
Right.
And the sensei came up and said, okay, so now you can come to the black belts class. And I went, what's that? And it was a secret. You went to this place on a different day of the week and there's all these black belts. He said, when you get your black belt, now you know the mechanics. Then the journey begins. Okay. And we have many levels. And that was reflected when it said, we get our MCC. You asked Lynn about what did it do for her and her business? Do you know what it did for me? Yeah. It actually gave me the confidence that I knew what I was doing.
Really?
And I know this is going to sound crazy because some of the time I'm reasonably good at kind of putting a good front on it. But when I started, I had to build a business. I had a family to feed. I had kids. I've got to get out there and build a business. And by the time Nancy pushed me and said, you should start doing credentialing. I've got my PCC now. Come on, wake up. And so I did. But I've never told him this. By the time I took my PCC, which I went straight to, I already had 4,500 hours.
Right.
So way more than I needed for MCC. So I got volume, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And I went through that, and then I knew if I tried to go for the MCC, I would fail.
Okay.
And that journey, that finding how to get up that level, because it's a big jump. Sure. So actually, when I got the MCC, the biggest thing it did for me was gave me that little core of confidence that says, okay, perhaps I actually know what I'm doing. Now I need to go and start getting good at this.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
That's
okay. Thanks for that.
And then that works. When you get that little, when you start to get a little bit more comfortable with who you are, and if you listen to all my colleagues who've been speaking so far, you can hear it in their voice.
Yeah.
They've got to that place where they're comfortable with who they are, and we know that that's never going to stop. Yeah.
And you're saying that that really only came when you reached MCC, or did you get that level of?
Yeah, for me, no. For me, it was like I was doing the volume, I was making the money and things like that, but I just needed that little confidence. Yeah.
And that confidence is still with you today and growing?
Yes, because like going from black belt to the 8th dan, it's non-stop. They've all talked about it. It's a continuous, and every few years you meet somebody, you learn something, you discover something, you go like, oh my God, there's another level to go to. Yeah,
got it. Okay, thanks for that, Tony. Another question that we wanted to ask the panel was really for the benefit of the coaches in our audience today. So why should people in the audience aim for MCC, and why did you do that? And maybe Nancy, I can ask you to come in here. I was interested in the comment you made this week about reflective practice and how important a part it's played for you in developing mastery. And as the past president of ICF, could you tell us a bit more about this, and what influence did this have on your desire to be an MCC?
Sure. Okay, and they're combined and different. Okay, so I mean, I think similar to what everybody else has said, it's that it's been a journey along the way and not an end point. And for me, the desire to work towards that MCC was a desire to be a better person, to me more in the being than the doing, and to constantly be in that place of, okay, what next do I need to look at for myself, in order to be who I want to be the best person that I can be. So, in terms of why should anybody go towards MCC, for me, it's about being the best person that you can be, and or being the best coach you can be. But for me, it's always been around my personal development, and I very much believe that who you are is how you coach.
Sure.
And that's in terms of the reflective part of that discussion. And I went through supervision training and have really loved that as part of my reflective journey in being a coach. It's not the only way. I also have my own personal reflection. I have meditation, I journal, and I also find the supervision very meaningful in terms of having somebody who I can talk about anything that has to do in my practice, whether it's a coaching session I've had with someone, whether it's something else in my life that's affecting my practice. And that's also part of working towards being better at what you do and who you are.
Yeah. And why would coaches, thanks. Why would coaches in the audience aim for MCC? What would you say to coaches who are looking at the panel today and thinking, should I go for this? What would you say to them? Why should they do this?
I think it's a personal desire, but I think if you should do it if you want to be better at what you're doing, if you want to be, the best person you can be, you should go for it. Not because of the title.
No.
So not because you think you're going to earn more money from being an MCC, not because you think you're going to be more popular. It's not about that, as I think everybody has said.
So let me bring in Rajiv. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Let me bring in Rajiv. Rajiv, you had a very diverse career, financial services and industry before becoming a coach almost 15 years ago. So could you share with us what drove you in your desire to be an MCC? And what would you say to people in the audience who are maybe making that transition out of an organization into coaching and achieving mastery? What would you say?
Yeah, I think two aspects there, Don. I'm trying to sort of respond to your two-layered questions there. So one is, the journey from corporate life, so to say, to coaching, and then second is kind of why MCC and what's the motivation and so on and so forth. So I think on the first one, I was doing really well in my corporate life, busy, excited, business was rocking, and so on and so forth. But I started to feel a sense of incompleteness within me. Something was still missing despite all this success. And I still remember telling my wife for the first time about it, and she was like, "What's wrong with you? Like, did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed or what?" And I got involved with some NGOs in my personal capacity at that time, and that really inspired me very differently. I also had a meditation practice. I've had it for, I don't know, over the last maybe 25 years. But again, with the busy corporate life, these things had become the remnants of my day, things you love to do but don't end up doing enough of. And around that time, maybe I felt conflicted and confused and a bit lost. So I revived it. Wherever I was traveling around the world, I would find my time to meditate. And I was reading a lot and, kind of existential. And as my friends often remind me, maybe I was going through some kind of midlife crisis, and perhaps so. And I think in a good way, though, because I think many of us have these sparks of inner change from time to time, but come Monday morning and we get sucked into our day-to-day sort of life. But for me, it haunted me. I really wanted to do something about it and channelize that energy. And that's where I had many ideas. Should I, start an NGO? Should I get into, holistic leadership? To bunch of ideas, and literally somewhere, I don't know how I stumbled into the field of coaching. And as I started to learn more about it, it just fired my imagination. It was like, wow, this is it. I'm a left brain engineer, analytical, and all of that, but this was a call from the heart. I was like meant to do this for a lifetime. Anyway, long story short, I moved on, and I feel grateful for that shift every single day. But to the point of sort of the MCC and so forth. So I would summarize my journey on that front as a reluctant PCC and excited MCC,
Really?
right? And so the piece here is that when I was in ACC, my practice was actually doing quite well. Things were in good place. I had my own personal sort of work going on within myself and so on. So I kind of looked at PCC. I was interested in it, but at the same time, I felt it was a bit cumbersome and a little tedious and so forth. So at that time, ICF came up with this new rule that if you wanted to renew your ACC, you have to go through a 10-hour of mentoring, right? And so I signed up with a mentor, and the best thing that happened to me, because she asked me to coach her for a few times in those mentoring sessions, and she said, "Hey, hang on, why are you trying to renew your ACC? You should be going to PCC because you're already at that level," right? So anyway, long story short, I put this together. I went through that. And then once I went through that and I realized how much it's helping me learn and grow as a person and as a coach, is then I was very conscious and very keen that I want to work towards MCC, and not as a title, clearly. And it's just really, I'm grateful because it has stretched me to grow both as a professional and as a person.
Yeah.
And I think to what Nancy said earlier, I think to the audience, let me first say why you shouldn't do it.
Okay.
Right? So don't do it if you are trying to seek a title, or it's a matter of pride, or looks good or whatever, or for that matter even business growth. I think unless you have a practice of mentoring or supervision or something like that, where this thing can actually add to your credentials, I think in a normal life and executive coaching, I'm not so convinced that this makes a difference. But if you are committed to a journey of self-development, right, as Nancy said, to grow as a person and as a coach, I think it's a tremendous opportunity that you can learn and refine and train and get feedback and so forth.
That's great. Yeah. Thanks very much indeed, Raju, for that. Suman, I'm just going to ask you, have we got maybe a question for the audience on this before we move on to the next segment?
I think the audience is very engaged and really resonating with what everyone is saying here. But I have one question which was maybe not answered yet. What is one personal change that happened for you as you went through the journey that made you feel better, made you feel like you're a better coach? So what's that one personal change that happened during the journey? That's the question.
Okay, who'd like to take that one?
You know,
Can I go?
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah.
It was, we touched on this earlier in the week. It was discovering that level where you can tap into your own inner energy and connect with the energy of everything else. That was the breakthrough.
Okay. Yeah. Was it Sabrina, you wanted to add something there?
Yeah, totally. Building on what Tony said, something that was really interesting for me was that I found, like, I was in the wilderness from PCC to MCC. Okay, like I felt like that was the bigger jump for me, like going ACC to PCC. Yeah, okay, fine. You know, I had a couple of thousand hours, and that felt achievable because I knew what to do. But going from that transactional to the transformational piece, where you're talking about, like, okay, I'm feeling this magic with my coachee. Right. And it's as much theirs as it is mine. That took, like, really, it took for me a discovery of my own edge around relaxing. Yeah. Just relaxing and, like, feeling that I needed to be great, and it was all about my ego. Like, that I needed to be doing a good job, I need to know that my coachee knows that I'm doing my best for them. And once I just allowed myself to relax into myself, and that's when I started discovering, I'm just kind of chilling out. It was kind of getting kind of like, it became more zen. It became more fun. It became more lighthearted and, more joyful. And just like what everyone else is saying, that's part of the growth edge. So that was my discovery of how I started relaxing into that space. And I think it's different for each one of us, how we find our sweet spot around that.
Yeah. No, that's a really good transition here. We're starting to talk about this already. So we wanted to explore some of your experience about your own journey to MCC. What does it take to reach the MCC status? And we're particularly interested in hearing about some of the challenges and the struggles that you lived through to get there. Let's hear from Lynn on this one. I mean, in a way, it sounds quite obvious and straightforward. I mean, people have been talking very eloquently about how you get there, but could you share with us some of the challenges and the difficulties that you had in making that transition to MCC?
Yes. I think all of you would have seen my bio that I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, I was awarded as a finalist of the Young Leaders Award by ICF. And that was the first year that they awarded that. And I was so psyched that they finally recognized young leaders, because when I started, 15, 16 years ago, at 20 years old, I I looked around me and everybody, or all the coaches in the field were, no offense to Rajiv and Tony, but white hair, or like, you don't have Singaporeans, you don't have Chinese, you don't have Asians. No, it's just white skin, white hair. And so I think that was the beginning of, the challenge that I would face year after year. And that is really my age. I think my age more than my race or my gender. If you imagine coaching at 20, my clients would be double my age. And the first thing they will always say, or even if they don't say it, is in their eyes, right? How can you coach me? How would you know? And so I think at the beginning of my journey, I already at the get-go had to figure out how to get through to people past that. I had to, in a way, prove myself. I had to quickly force myself up to a level where I could talk sense in the first, 5-10 minutes, to a point where the client might go, okay, maybe she really has something to say or something to offer. And I remember very clearly when I was applying for my MCC, at a point of time, ICF had one requirement. They have relaxed it now, but you needed to get a letter from 2 other MCCs who would vouch for you. And so I reached out to MCCs around the world, and nobody would write a letter for me. There was an MCC who wrote back and he said, just based on your age, you're 30, there's no way a 30-year-old can be an MCC. And so that just encapsulates the challenge of my entire career. Do I still face it now? I do. But there are more and more so-called younger coaches, and I think the industry is recognizing that, as well as ICF, and that's fantastic for me. That's a huge breakthrough for the profession.
Yeah. So that's no longer the case. You think the younger coaches can break through?
I look so young, no?
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. That's really good. Maybe Jedi, could you build on that? What were what does it take to become an MCC, and what were the challenges that you saw?
Yeah, so one of the things I think on the journey of MCC, to me, really, it's about why do MCC? Is it for livelihood purpose, or is it for business? Is it for an organization? Is it for just adding on credentials? I think there's a little bit of mix of each one of them, but I think the core of it all is that someone pointed out, one of the participants here pointed out, is that why coaching in the first place? What got me into coaching? Because that would give me an end goal of really why I want to go forward in this. So when I first started the coaching journey, it was really about discovering why conversations have such power. So I was launched into the deep, and I had to coach people. So at the point of time, I was doing a lot of youth coaching. So the youths at my time, they had a lot of cuts on their hands here, right? So there are a lot of lacerations here on the thighs, and they were going through a lot of struggles. So back then, I was one of the youth leaders and had to counsel or coach them, so whatever term they called then. So they say, you got to help these people. So they just say, you got to help these people, right? Talk to them. So I said, what do I tell them? What do I say to them? I've not been through depression. I've not been through the struggles that they've been through. So I'm not sure what they're experiencing when they're going through all those. So that led me to think, what could I do to really help them? Because they are in a state where they're looking for help, but the only way they could express out was through the physical pain. So that began my journey to say, hey, what's really happening for them? It's not the external pain. They're trying to drown the inward pain with external pain so that they can feel reality again. So that got me thinking about, hey, how can I get really a deeper understanding of what help really is? What is coaching? What's counseling? What's therapy? What is psychology? So I went to this whole pathway of discovering, okay, what are the different fields about what's neuropsychology, neuroscience, neurolinguistics, are there differences and all this? So that whole journey helped me to discover, hey, actually, coaching has a special power, because coaching has the power of conversations, and the power of conversations has the ability to change lives. Life and death are in the power of the tongue, and this is something that we all know. That the tongue, although it's the smallest member of the body, but it has the ability to create seismic shift. So think about this. When we came into this conversation today, what do we tell ourselves? Oh, it's Friday, it's going to be a long day, I've not had my dinner, and your whole body starts to feel, just squeezed in. Or are you telling yourself, hey, it's the last day of the week, I'm going to glean the most out of it, and your whole body changes. And why is it that words have power? So I'm going to say, hey, the pursuit for me towards MCC is to really discover more about myself and more about how, the ability of conversations can really impact and change lives. And that's why one of the things that I did for my own company was this. It became such a strong passion for me that I call my company Coaching Changes Lives, because I really believe that coaching has the power to change lives one conversation at a time. And the pursuit of mastery begins on this whole journey of, hey, letting go of what was holding back, and letting go of all the presuppositions, all the thoughts, and really asking myself, really, what is it that I'm on? What journey am I on? And who am I really in this whole journey? So many people have come to me and say, are all MCCs people very zen? Are all MCCs people very in the floating state? And so I said, no, I love music, so take a look at that, right? So I do music. I'm a voice coach, helping a lot of vocalists as well. So I said, hey, could we utilize the coaching competency across different domains? If you're a consultant, can you be a consultant coach? If you're a leader, can you be a coach? A leader as a coach. If you're a manager, if you're a team player, if you're a musician, I met this Qigong master, and I told her, hey, could you be a Qigong master and coach? Can you be a Qigong coach? So we can stretch the paradigm. So to me, entering this whole process in this exciting times of ICF as well, is to redefine how the next 5, 10, 20 years is going to be like for our coaching profession as a whole. So it's not just defined by people at ICF, but it's defined by all of us here gathered today, the 166 of us here today.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much for that. Sabrina, can I come back to you? I know you already talked about your journey, but could you help us to, could you talk to us maybe about your own journey? Were there any particular personal traits that you decided to work on as you moved to MCC status?
To be perfectly honest, I'm actually surprised that I'm an MCC, because Nancy and I did our training together, okay? And I remember, I had another business, I was hanging out, and then she persuaded me to come on the ICF Exco, and of course, I've kind of followed her in her footsteps, right, Nancy? and one of and I remember, I had several hundred hours before I did the ACC, and I was like, you know what? I'm really not that interested in doing credentials because I don't believe in those labels. And she goes, you know what? But what the hook was where she said, well, it's about the development and growth, and I really appreciated that. and really want to honor that she shared that with me and has held that space with me over the years. Yeah. And so thank you, Nancy. But what I saw for myself most was that over the years, just going to the next level. When I got to PCC, I was like, oh, that's it for me. I'm done.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, okay, what's next? So there's this, and then there's a readiness that happens.
Okay.
Where you're just like, okay, I'm ready to like climb up that next mountain.
That moment. When that moment's arrived.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then even at the MCC level, and I think that this is where the MCC myth, there's a myth around that, because there's MCC and MCC, and like Emma just even said in the chat, Emma Noguchi, yeah, she said in the chat, there are lots of you out there who are masterful coaches without the label. Yeah. It's just that this is just a stamp, and then here we are in that pond of MCC-ness, and I would even say that in that pond there are more advanced, more wide. Yeah, there's those who have like a bigger wisdom body than the early MCCs, right? So there's a pond there where like, how far do you want to go? Someone said in the chat, is there going to be another level beyond that? Well, it's up to you. Sure. Yeah, that's how we defined our unique style, I feel. So it's kind of exciting, right? Because, ACC, PCC, and MCC is just kind of like getting through immigration, guys, Get through immigration, and then you're on the other side. And then, what do you want to do with it? Who do you want to touch? Who do you want to, where do you want to make a difference? For me, that's what's exciting.
Yeah, that's a great transition. And one of the questions we wanted to ask was, what is the difference? How do you see the difference, having been through ACC, PCC, and MCC? What are the fundamental differences, either in terms of competency or mindset, or maybe there's something else that differentiates the three levels? Nancy, do you want to give us your take on that one?
Sure. Am I on? There we go. So I think, in some it's funny because in some cases, some people, like Reggie was talking about, when he thought he was going for his ACC, he was told he was already actually at PCC level. So there are some people who, it actually can go very quickly. And Lynn, I think you probably experienced that as well, where just because of who you are, it feels very natural. And maybe the ICF, based on how many training hours you've done, says that you can only go for a certain thing. But actually, you might, in terms of ICF competencies or their levels, might be beyond that. So again, sometimes these terms don't always represent, as Sabrina also said. And then having said that, so I have mentored people at different levels along the way and over the years. And, some things that others have also talked about it, I often saw at ACC, people are very worried about, am I showing the competencies? Did I follow it? Did I ask the right question? Sometimes they'll have questions all planned out and, thinking a lot about it and how to make that correct and perfect. And then at the PCC level, I think there is a added in that partnership. You realize, oh, I can actually, I don't have to work so hard. This is two of us. This is a co-creation. This is something we do together. I'm not doing anything to somebody. It's really something that we create together, and it's beautiful that way. And you listen and you extend your capacity to listen. As Tony loves to talk about, how do I, hear something that wasn't said, and the journey in coaching to that. And I think then at going to the MCC, I remember for me, it was many years of time to try to get the hours, because I had little kids and I wasn't trying to do a lot of hours very quickly. And I remember having my mentor when I finally did have the hours, and it was painful. And I know a lot of people I mentor at MCC, it's very painful to have to listen to your tapes and play them back and think, oh gosh, this is painful. And it was painful for me, but it was also probably one of the best learnings I went through in terms of my coaching beingness, and to shed a lot of that off and realize, okay, I can listen to my voice over and over again and hear the things that I don't like and work through them and have the support of a mentor through that. So very rewarding in terms of, I think, again, the beingness.
Yeah. I'm picking up a couple of questions in the chat here about supervision. Do you think, well, could you share with us the importance of supervision maybe at those 3 levels? Does the nature of supervision change as you get more experienced? And I know, Sabrina, you've chipped in on that one as well, but Nancy, what do you think? What's the role?
I'll start out on that. And supervision for coaches is, it's relatively new and it's still getting stronger. And I only started supervision, was it right before I was MCC or around the time I was MCC? It was around that time. So I started having a supervisor at the point of basically already being MCC. And so I can't talk very much into if I had it before, but I know even at MCC, I just find it so wonderful to have that time and that space to work with someone and really explore every aspect of my practice. It's truly, it's a gift. I really look forward to my working with my supervisor and having those sessions. And there's a space for really just to be and to ask questions as well as just share and explore, where are their dark sides, where can you further develop?
Yeah, that's a good point. Tony,
Sabrina? Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
Sabrina, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, I echo what Nancy said, because, I really believe in supervision because, when you do a coach training, that's become a bit of a business, hasn't it? If you think about it, there's all these coach trainings out there. Which one do you do? What methodology you're learning, what are the theories, blah, blah, blah. And then, when you come to your own individual, what I call, me, and where I can grow, and then working with an individual supervisor, I talk about that nuancing. You look at your shadows, because who you are is how you coach. We talked about it in the chat, and Nancy mentioned it as well. So, that really helped me to start refining, how I show up in front of my clients, some of the things that I need to look at. I started seeing myself more systemically as well. And then I also became a coaching supervisor. In fact, Nancy and I did our training together as well on that, right? Supervisors need supervisors, and that's how the picking order works. And, I really don't believe that once you become an MCC, that's the end, because that's just ego. We really need to continue developing and growing. And that's just merely title, a label, a great acknowledgement. Thank you very much, ICF, for that acknowledgement. But then, we're all this in together. We're here, we're here in the business of being change agents because we love to grow and develop, and we also love to do that for others and with others,
Tony, I'd like to bring you in here. You were one of the first MCCs in Singapore. I know you've already shared that the criteria have evolved since you became an MCC. So what do you think are the changes? What are the changes that you've seen since you first became an MCC into the criteria? Have they evolved? And what changes have you seen?
No, I don't think the criteria has changed very much. I think what has changed, and it's one of the benefits for everybody out there who's listening and saying, I'd like to get on that journey to MCC, is that you've actually got so many more places to learn from.
Right.
There are now people, I've got friends over in the States, people who were in the early years of ICF who now said, you know what, there's enough PCCs out there now, there's actually a market. Because, when I was doing it, that was the problem, how to learn. So I think the advantage a lot of coaches got now, you've got people you can learn from. And as the number of us grows, the more and more there are people to learn from. And the interesting bit is you could talk to every single one of us in this room and get a different perspective on what they need to learn to get to that MCC level.
Yeah.
So there's a richness in the freedom of coaching at that level in the being, which you're all going to benefit from, which I think is tremendous. And going back to Sabrina's point, the reflection, the supervision, one of the things I don't see people doing enough is that coach by phone, record it, and then listen to yourself and analyze it.
Mm.
Yeah, and all the documentation's out there, everything that's expected. In fact, yeah, anybody who wants to get on that journey, go pull down the documentation, ignore the PCC markers completely.
Okay.
Read up on what's expected at MCC level and shoot for that.
Okay. Okay, thanks for that, Tony. Rajiv, I'm going to just make a transition into the journey. How do coaches in our audience evolve if that's what they want to do to MCC? Could I ask you to kick off with that one? How do coaches know whether MCC is right for them? How can they understand whether it's the right path for them? Would you like to share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks, Don. Just a quick one on, I think some great comments have come up on the whole notion of sort of mastery and ACC, PCC, etc. And I just want to very quickly, I'm getting a brainwave, which again, I'm using my liberty here to share, which is kind of the pathway to mastery, but explained through an analogy from a different field, and maybe that brings it out even more clearly. And I'm going to force fit sort of the ACC, PCC, and MCC into that, and hopefully it makes a point. So I'm just going to pick on a sport, say tennis, right? So you're a tennis player, you get started, you've become a professional, so which means you've committed your life to tennis now, right? So that's given. What you focus on really is strengthening your fundamentals, right? So you want to understand how the strokes are played, how to serve better, how the footwork is, your fitness, and how the pro circuit works, et cetera, et cetera. So you get a hang of all of that. And you do that really well, you get into, say, the top 250 rank, right? So that's kind of the ACC in a way. And as I said, I'm just going to force fit those, which is you get to a level where you are strengthened your fundamentals. But as the tennis player, you want to get to the next level. You put in the hours, you work really hard, practice hard, etc. But I think to me, the most important thing that those players do to get to the next level is actually have a process of improvement. So you don't just improve your tennis game, but you have a process to improve. And that process includes then, training and learning and reflecting and refining and all of that. And then you break into sort of the top 50, which is again, kind of, I'm crude analogy, break into sort of the PCC where you've got a process of improvement. Yeah. And then the difference between the top 50 and the top sort of 5-10 players, if you like, is if you saw them practice together, actually you won't be able to tell the difference. They can all play the game equally well, no difference really. But yet the Federers and Nadals of the world, why they differentiate is because they've got one more process. And that is the process of working on themselves, process of working on their inner self. And it shows up, for example, in one clear thing in any of these, Grand Slam finals and what have you, is their ability to be in the moment and let go, right? And that's so critical in coaching, right? Everyone's talked about that whole idea, so I'm not going to belabor the point, whether it is letting go of the attachment to the outcomes, letting go of our own processes, right? You get to PCC and all of that with those processes, but letting go of those structures and just being in the flow. So I think that's how I see it. I'm in no way suggesting that MCCs are Federers and Nadals of this world, far from it. But again, it's an exaggerated analogy to kind of make a point. And to your question of, what can, how can sort of people look at MCC, is it right for them or not? I really think it depends, because I think the headline is that if you're committed to coaching, you want to be on this path, right? That's the headline. But I think the subtext can be quite nuanced, because to give you an example, if there's a coach out there who's certified, who's got a good practice, great feedback from clients, and has got a process of improvement, etc., and wants to focus on serving more clients rather than worry about certification, I mean, that's fine. Or there's someone else who sees coaching as a way to serve society, or it's such a powerful, like Jedi said, coaching changes lives, right? So it's such a powerful platform, and let's say wants to spend more time serving ICF because they feel through that way they can actually create greater awareness of coaching and expand the reach, etc., etc. I think it's a great idea. I mean, if as a result they're not going to be as interested in certification, that's okay. And yet, finally, if you are someone who's keen on that journey of self-development to go forward and work on yourself, be the best coach, be the best person, etc., etc., clearly, these pathways, these markers are useful. But again, if you've got other tools, you've got your own personal development practice or professional development practice in place, and mentoring, or somebody wants to work on mindfulness, or whatever it is for you that allows you to grow as a person and as a coach, it's those options exist as well.
Yeah, that's really good. Maybe ask the other members of the panel. So maybe Jedi, Lynn, Tony. Nancy's left us, unfortunately. Or if you're still around, Nancy, if you want to chip in, do you want to build on that? What are some of the best practices you'd like to share? Would you like to build on what Rajiv had just said?
I think practice. Especially for those of you pursuing from a PCC to MCC level, I think practice is going to be really important for us, and reflective practice. Sometimes I like to call it reflective inquiry into your practice. So record the sessions, especially if you can do a video recording of the session, play it back, watch yourself, and then dissociate yourself from the context, see what's happening. What are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing from the perspective of the client, from the perspective of the coach, from the perspective of the third person perspective. So you have a multiple perceptual position, and from these positions you can learn new things about yourself and learn new things about the context of coaching. How could you improve? And really, in this whole process, as you begin to practice more, you begin to find out more. It's not about the markers you're trying to achieve. So I would say is try to avoid, trying to have a check box on all your PCC markers, because when you do that, then you get locked down into a formulaic approach that you have to achieve A, B, C, D, E. Or I had coaches coming to me and say, "Oh, what's the step? What are the 11 steps of ICF?" So they get confused between the core competencies and 11 steps. There's no 11 steps. There are no 8 steps, right? These are the core competencies. So it's not sequential like that, but it's embedded within us, and that will show up within our practice. So to me, really practice makes permanence. And if you practice without reflecting, you practice without inquiry, if you practice without a mentor or without a coach, then what happens is that you may be permanently imbued with the wrong behavior marker, right? So I would say get a mentor with you, get a coach. So we always say is, right, a coach without a coach is not a coach. So if we really want our clients to believe in coaching, we have to believe in ourselves, to hire a coach for ourselves. As a coach, the coach can help us to see things that we cannot see. So that's some thoughts that I have.
Yeah, I have another perspective. I think there's been a lot of talk around engaging a mentor or supervisor or a trainer. But I think on the everyday basis, it boils down to you and your inner coach, whether you want to call it your inner coach or your ability to be aware or reflect or consciousness. This practice that we talk about is not just only with clients, and it's not just when you wear your pin or you go out, in your suit and say, "I'm a coach, I'm working as a coach now." But, with your loved ones, your parents, your spouses, your friends, I think ultimately when we learn the ability to coach, it is because we can make a difference to the people who matter to us. And it doesn't make sense. And I've met coaches like that who are good at coaching, or they think they're very good at coaching. But then they excuse my French, they shit around their circles or their house. And, to me, that's not a coach. And so I think it's your ability to every time catch yourself and call yourself to higher ground. I think that's important. And I think very much to what I love what Rajiv said, that kind of process, it's very disciplined. When nobody's looking and you're just with yourself, can you do that for yourself?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Lynn.
Yeah, I would just echo that, Lynn and Don, that, I think at the end of the day, when you talk about the best practice, I think for my last 15 years, what's paid the greatest dividends for me as a person and definitely as a coach is having that sort of disciplined practice of working on yourself, on your own inner being, on your self-development, whatever it is for different people. Jedi talked about reflective practice. So whether it's meditation, whether it's reading, whether you'd want to do some healing work, somebody prefers therapy, writing, I found to be so therapeutic and so forth. So whatever it is that allows you to work with yourself, I think that's at the end the best practice, I would say. I mean, clearly you want to also simultaneously engage with sort of improving your coaching skills, because that's also a professional skill. So it's not like, you may be a very calm person and a very kind person, generous, but coaching is a profession. And so you want to engage with that as well. That's where mentoring or getting feedback for clients or recording or reflecting, etc., all that is very powerful. But I find the personal work is really, and as Lynn said, it has to be, it's like you have to live the life that you're encouraging your clients to embark on.
Embark on as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So true, Rajiv. Yeah. It's about really aligning. And Lynn said that as well. It's like, you need to be aligned, all those different parts need to stack up. Otherwise, how can we do that? It would be completely fake.
Yeah, incongruence will show up. Right? Your inward congruence will show up in your practice, in your conversations. Yeah. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, what coaching does help in a way, and why I find it so complementary is, when you're with a client and you're talking about, pick anything, like let's say, work-life balance, right? And let's say your own work-life balance is getting a little bit out of gear, let's just say, right? But the fact is, when you're coaching, it's also every day you are being reminded of things you got to be doing. So that's the beauty of it. So in a way, you get to learn so much from your clients as well, right? And it again, as long as you have a reflective practice, it brings you back into, the things you want to correct wherever you are off balance. So to your own sort of sweet spot.
One more thing I think to add on to that, which I'm noticing on the journey as well, is my ability to reflect has become much quicker, right? Because when you're in the practice of reflecting, you're reflecting in the moment, like you're becoming a reflective practitioner, and that's what we're doing with others as well as with ourselves, even when we're in our private lives. One of the things that I've really advocated, like even when I was, in the Exco as well, was that the biggest asset that a coach can have is their reputation. You can go off and market yourself here, there, and everywhere, but really your reputation and what you stand for and the ethical responsibility that we have towards ourselves as well as in relationship to others is going to show up.
Yeah. Tony, is there anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Well, I'm not sure there's anything that could be added to all that, right? I mean, I'm just sitting there listening, going, yep, that's it. Lots of ways of expressing it. You've got to surround yourself with mirrors. You just got to become aware of everything that's happening for you every day.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And maybe can I ask Suman? I think we've got time for some questions. What have we picked up? Is there anybody in the audience that has got a question that we could ask the panel? What have we got?
There's a question on models or tools that would accelerate the journey, but I suppose we've heard that it's not about that. And I think, Tony, you mentioned energy work. I'm not sure if you want to talk a bit more about that. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. E equals MC squared. For me, that was the breakthrough. Learning to connect yourself to others, learning to connect wider. This is just physics. Everything in the universe is made up of energy. You've got to learn to play. People will describe it differently, but you talk to any good MCCs and you will start to hear that that's the level they're playing at. And once you get there, there are no limits to the levels you can go to.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm picking up a question here. Herman has said that the ICF is developing a competency around team coaching. Is that going to be a competency where you think this is going to be relevant? Do you want to, Herman, maybe do you want to put your microphone and just ask that question to us?
Sure. I guess I'm curious because having a panel of MCCs, ICF will develop a unique set of competencies around team coaching. So my question was, what's their view? Is team coaching unique enough from coaching that it would require extra training, even maybe for an MCC? And potentially it could mean a whole separate set of credentials just for team coaching, if it is unique enough. So I just want to, they're MCCs. I'm just kind of, and people like Tony and Sabrina, they always have interesting things to say. So I'd like to pick their brains on that.
Okay, let's go for that.
Okay, can I be picked first?
Yeah.
So, yes, go for it, Tony.
Yeah. I will be surprised if the team coaching competencies are totally different. It's an expansion. So go back to what I was saying earlier about, so there's going to be some techniques. Team coaching is facilitation on steroids. And what I think it's a broadening of what you do. So at MCC level and above, we're working to get that strong energetic level connection with an individual. When you do team coaching, you've got to connect with the wider, you connect with the team, you connect with the environment that they're in. So I think there will be some additional techniques. There might be some specific things that they will want you to pay attention to. You'll see shifts. So the contracting, the coaching agreement. I mean, most of the people in the room, there's whole ideas around how do you do that with a team, which is very different from just doing with the individual. So it's broader, it's wider. That's what I expect. And I know from personally doing a lot of that kind of work, when you get to that energetic level with things, the more power you can put into that, the more energy you can reach out with, the more effective it all becomes. And you can start to see literally just the energy in the room actually bringing teams together beyond the mechanics.
Yeah. Anybody else want to chip in on that one?
Yeah, so the ICF has set up various committees, and one of the committees are focusing on team competencies. So in that committee, they're discussing what are some relevant team competencies that are involved. To me, I think the big thing about teams as well as individuals is that it should not be a new set of competencies. It should complement whatever that's been existing, that's already are. And the big difference in team is that you're going to manage different states and every single individual, so that everybody has a place to voice, has a place to share, and you have different cultures as well. So some of the challenges of team coaching is incorporating cultures, because if you have a multicultural team, and some cultures may have low contact, some cultures high contact, some cultures high power distance. So then how do you facilitate that? So as a coach, now you've got to learn some of the skills as well. One of the key challenges that I think for team coaching as well as for individual coaching is moving across just managing states, but also moving across managing different mediums of communication. Like what's happening around us globally, it's that now we have to get used to using Zoom, a Zoom call. Very used to coaching teams on Zoom. How do you do that? How do you engage them constantly? Coaching one-on-one is still possible, but if you engage 162 people here, as a team, how do you do that? How do you make sure that everybody is still in this right state of mind? So that's something that's going to be a very interesting development. And I think the committee are getting inputs from all over the world, getting inputs from coaches. So if you have thoughts about team coaching and you like to share and you like your inputs be given, I think ICF has a portal for you to share your thoughts and some of your suggestions. They'll be more than happy to incorporate them as they develop the team coaching competencies.
That's great.
May I build on what was just said? Because I really appreciate what Herman said and what Tony said around energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you think about it, actually, and I've grappled with this, you know, coaching one-on-one is that we're working in the energetic field of just one person. And because I work in, you know, after my doctorate, I've started working in, you know, designing of leadership programs. What's happening here is that, you know, we're really looking at the human being now as part of the system, right? So when I hear Tony saying, yeah, you know, how do you extend your capacity to include, you know, a body of people, which is really, you know, wrapping your arms around a system where, you know, you're not just with one person anymore, you know, it's how do we include all the voices in the room? Yeah. And I'm not sure, Herman, whether ICF will address that as a competency in the future for team coaching, but I do know that there are emails that I get asking me whether I have got that expertise or if I've got that experience or that ability to work in these larger spaces. So I'm not sure whether that answers your question. I think it's more a case of whether you have the bandwidth to go to that level of, like, you know, wanting to work in the systemic field rather than the individual system. Does that answer your question?
Sabrina, and I just want to add one to.
Okay.
Please do, Lynn.
You want to go? Okay.
Go ahead, Lynn.
So I think on top of what everybody else has said, I think one of the extra things also is having courage, because when we are facing a group, I think it's faster and it's easier to have us push to our edge. It could be an individual, or it could be a topic, or it could be when the group kind of really gets out of hand, there are a lot of emotions going on. I think as a team coach, it does take courage to hold the whole group, building on what Sabrina said, and to be able to be comfortable and to be confident and to be okay with that. That takes courage. So I think on top of competencies, and I don't know whether ICF will come out with something different, but I think that human element there is something that I just wanted to throw in as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks for everyone's views.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. It's coming out at the end of the year. And I kind of agree with Tony. I agree with Tony. It won't be radically different, but there'll be a build. There'll be things you need to know in addition to being just a one-on-one coach.
That's cool. So look, that's a good place for us to start the wrap up for our session with just about 6 minutes left before the end. What I'd like to do is invite each one of our panelists to share a few final thoughts. A couple of questions, if we could go around. So personally for you, what does the future hold beyond MCC? That's something we'd like to hear from you. And maybe to share with the audience one thing that you've learned from your journey as a coach that you'd like to share with the audience. So 2 questions there. Maybe can I kick off with Sabrina? So what's the future for you? And maybe one learning that you want to share with the group. No pressure.
You know, the future actually is really building on my research, because my research is on is really focused around Asian leadership, and I'm working with the universities here, working on large-scale leadership programs and designing. Yeah, so I've kind of gone into that design space as well, and I really see, and really there's a longing and a yearning to start looking at the and rather than the either and the or, which is around, you know, the paradoxes that exist. So that's part of my research as well. And I think the biggest learning for me on this journey has been is that I'm really I keep continually calling on my own, confronting my ego to stay open to learning new things from the people I meet in my life. because as soon as I think I know better than someone else, I stop growing. You know, and so that feels like where I'm at right now.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Jedi, would you like to share a few final words? What's the future for you?
Yeah, I think the future for me personally, it's really about how do we stretch the boundaries of coaching? How do we, for personally ourselves, how do we always stretch that? How do we relearn everything again? How do we step back again one more time and say, hey, how do I unlearn and relearn and begin to learn from a whole new perspective again? And really redefining, and as a whole team here, really redefining what coaching would look like in the next generation, next milestone. And the benefit for us is that we have mileage, we have, you know, the next 60 years, 70 years, 80 years ahead of us. How would that look like for us as a whole ecosystem? And one of the beauty that I see happening for us is that as the world evolves, as digitalization happens, one thing that will stay true is that conversations are going to be really hard for machine to mimic, right? So as we improve our conversations, it becomes like, you know, wine, and wine matures and tastes sweeter and sweeter each day. So for me personally as well, how do I constantly challenge myself, you know, to test new areas, to reshape my own personal definition of what coaching really is, and to see what the future entails, and really to help support the coach community around the world, and to really learn from different cultures and see things from a whole new perspective.
Thanks for that. Lynn, can I ask you to share a couple of thoughts about your future? What does that hold?
I love that question, Don. make me really think.
Okay.
So, I mean, beyond sort of my personal goals and my business goals,
sure.
I think it would be finding the next mountain or building that next mountain. I don't know what exactly it is. I know that I do want to leverage, I guess, platforms to be able to push the boundaries of coaching. So I totally agree with ICF's vision, which is to enable coaching to be an integral part of society. I love that. It's something I believed in from the start. And I just want to find a better, a faster way to do that and to bring people along with me, because working the journey alone is not fun. And to me, it's a bit pointless. So I like to work with people who want to walk the same path. And that's where I'm going.
That's cool. Thank you very much for sharing that, Lynn. Tony, what's the future for you beyond MCC?
So we have to adjust the phrase. There is no beyond MCC, because we've already established in this group that's never ending.
Never ending. Absolutely.
Yeah. Couple of link things. I was thinking, and my brain thought somebody was asking earlier about sort of continuing the learning and whatever. One of the things I think to remember is, as well as the reflection, is if you get to teach something, you then really learn it. As Nancy had mentioned, you know, going through the training to become an assessor was like, wow. I mean, that was where some of the big depth came. Anybody out there, if you've got your PCC, get in the queue to become an assessor for ACCs, because that's going to give you a massive depth of learning. So I was very busy, as I said at the beginning, in building a business. I helped start the chapter, worked on the Exco for a long time, and I've kind of had 10 years away from close involvement in chapter life, which is partly necessary because others have to come in and own it. That's why we managed to draw people like Lynn into the universe, right? So what I'm thinking, I want to do two things going forward. Part of continuing my learning at the depth, I'd like to maybe start moving into sharing what I know. I want to share what I know.
Okay.
And I might actually, I'm starting to think about, maybe it's time to get a little bit more involved with ICF, maybe starting serving at some of the global level.
Okay, that sounds good. And Rajiv, over to you for the final comments. What would you like to share? What's the future for you?
Yeah, thanks, Don. Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I think quite frankly, it is it is exactly what I left corporate life for this new life. And I think it is really just sums up as sort of to continue to be on, to be on the journey of personal and spiritual growth and to help others in theirs, right? And, all the clients and the people I have the opportunity to serve. So I think that's for me is like the simple continuation of what I've been on the last 14, 15 years and keep that going. And to your question about sort of the learning, I think, of course, there are many aha moments out there, but if there's one which I've been lately reminded of, it's that it's not about you, it's really about them, right? The people we are trying to serve. So, and that goes to Sabrina's point about, subduing our own ego and letting go and all of that. So I think that's been a big learning for me.
That's good. So look, thank you very much indeed for that. That's some awesome inputs. And I'm going to hand back over to Suman now to wrap up the session. And thank you very much, everybody on the panel, for all of your incredible inputs and for taking us further there. Suman.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, all the MCC master coaches. It was really wonderful. As an aspiring MCC, I've learned a lot. I think 3 points that I'll just quickly like to highlight is that mastery is really about a journey and a mindset, not about the skills. It's really about your personal work that you need to do on yourself. And I really love the last point which Lynn made, which is really, it's about alignment. It's about who you are, how you show up to the rest of the world, and that's going to determine how you are as a coach as well. So thank you very much. I'm going to just have to close the session, unfortunately, as it is 8 o'clock. So let me get back to cannot find my slides. Yeah, there you go. Share. So we've come to the end, and again, I need to just acknowledge our sponsors, our platinum sponsor, Emergenetics, the gold and silver sponsors that you see on this page. And I just want to remind everybody to stay back. We're going to have a closing celebration ceremony, so please don't leave this room. Today, there's no more breakouts. I think we've worked hard enough. Now it's time to celebrate. And but of course, I have to give you your CCEU, QR code. So please take a minute now, quickly. If you can take a picture of the QR code, and I believe the link must be in the chat as well. So thank you so much, everyone. And please stay with us. If you want to go grab a drink, a glass of wine, some beer, whatever you like, we'd like to do a final closing. And for the closing, it is my pleasure one more time to invite Lynn and Adrian, who are the co-chairs of ICW Singapore 2020. So Lynn and Adrian, we'd like to get you in front of the camera.
All right, thank you so much, Suman. Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome. Good evening, everyone. You know how time flies. I still remember back in January this year, or I think it was, right when we had our new EXCO retreat, and we were all huddled down at the National University of Singapore, and we were having breakouts and all that. I said, how far are we down in planning for this ICW? And Lynn said, haven't done a thing yet. And then one thing led to another, and just last week, when the team had our last Friday meeting, we were wondering to ourselves, what's going to happen next week? It's going to be really unusual because, everything is just going to happen. And here we are. It's already Friday. It's Friday evening, 8 o'clock. And it's the end. And I just want to say a very big thank you to each and every one of you who have just set aside time in your calendars to be with us throughout the week. What's amazing is we've had 16 webinars in 5 days. We've had 35 speakers. And drum roll, please, if you would. We've had participants, we've had audiences from 24 countries. And here's the big one. Do you know how many attendees have attended all 16 webinars? Make a guess. Put it in the chat box. I love to see what your numbers are. No, this is we need the grand total number of all 16 webinars. How many attendees do you think we've got? Oh, come on. No. Well, someone's got it. Someone's got it. Yes, someone's got that
Adrian,
lucky
don't
number.
we have a quiz for that? You want to?
No, I'm not giving away the number. I'm just asking the questions. Someone's got the answer in here, so we'll find out in a while.
Evil, you're so evil. Are we supposed to do that now?
Yes.
Gonna,
all right.
right.
So,
Okay.
we're gonna bring this wonderful conference to a close. Okie dokie.
We have a couple of things lined up for you guys. It's gonna be fun because Suman has said no work. So all
No work, no breakouts. Yes.
Yes. You need to go to www.menti.com and use this code, and we have a quiz for you, and we would be able to see a leaderboard. So those of you
Thanks, Sabrina,
who love competition.
Sorry, guys, I can't join for the prizes, and I love prizes. So, you know.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Bye.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Hey, Lynn, I got to go as well. Sorry about that. But yeah, thanks for having me, and I really loved the interaction.
Okay.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everyone. Have a beautiful weekend. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Oh, look at all those images. They're so cute.
I know.
This calls for another LinkedIn post.
Oh, it's getting crowded. Now everybody's just standing on top of each other.
We're expecting 100 icons to appear.
I don't know how many icons Mentimeter can take. Let's keep going, guys. Let's keep squeezing. Get in there.
Yeah. I see the angel, the
Yay.
snowman, the umbrella. The
Ready?
spade, penguin. Okay, let's go.
Oh, whoa, sudden search. All right, let's okay, Adrian, you call.
Question number 1. Fastest fingers first. How many attendees do you think showed up throughout the entire ICW 2020 Singapore conference? Go! And the numbers are coming along, and it's coming along. Yes. Is it 2,850? Is it 1,008? Is it 3020? And it's, what's the answer? Ooh, wow. You guys are right. We did hit over 3,000 attendees this week. A big round of applause. We kicked butt. Sorry. Oops. Question number 2. How many countries were represented at ICW 2020? Is it 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 30? And let's see. Ooh. Hey, you were listening to me. Well done. Question number 3. How many speakers and panelists appeared throughout the entire week at ICW Singapore 2020? Is it 35, 21, or 19? And the answer is 35. Yay! Give yourself a nice big clap. Yes, we did have. And, ooh, here we go. And who's at the top of the leaderboard? Oh, wow. It's Catherine. Well done, Catherine. And your prize is time with the MCCs.
What? I thought you were going to say her prize is a watermelon.
No, she gets to spend time with the MCCs. All right. So we're going to now like to just spend this time recalling, all right, and just reflecting on the week that has just, the week just passed. And we'd like to ask you this question: what most empowered you this week? And key that into Mentimeter, please. The community, the connections, the people, yes. The sharing sessions, yes. Belonging, wonderful. Connecting, inspiration, mindfulness, the speakers, I see, great, all right. The energy, the knowledge, the people, yeah. The energy and passion, the core, to be of service to the community, excellent, bravo. Inclusion, audience participation, yes, playing this game. Breakout sessions, okay, great. Oh, there's love for Lynn. Doing VNO work. Connecting, yes. Rhonda Boyle session, oh yes. Oh, we won't forget Rhonda for a while. Learning, yes. Knowing that things are achievable and I'm not alone. Yes, you are never alone in this world. Growth, mindfulness, clarity, generosity, indeed, knowledge. Yes, we are a community. Energy, learning, wow. And it just keeps coming. Humility, we've not heard that for a while. Open, passion, generosity, ideas, yes. Oh, please. I'm not reading that one. Oh, the pink porcupine. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, we're going to have a fun time. Love. Oh, yes. I think that's what we love. We need more of love.
Kind administration assistance. Thank you. Very nice.
Very nice. Very nice.
So the Menti screen would still be left where it is. So if you want to continue keying in, you can, and we'll compile this and publish it on social media for everybody. And what we have for you next is a slideshow. And it's going to be short. We try to make it as short as possible, but we want to have you take this time to sit back and relax and just kind of go through the entire week, because that's what we do when we finish off our engagements, right? We have a conversation with a client around how the journey went and what they need to say or what they need to acknowledge to be complete. And so we want to kick this off with a video. And then as we watch the video, just kind of reflect and let that trigger whatever for you. So I'm going to switch to the video, guys. Okay. All right, Adrian.
All right. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Wow.
Oh, all right. Okay, so hope you guys enjoyed that and helped to bring you down memory lane. Suman, are you on? Suman, you're on mute.
Yes. So do we have something to show the audience, or we're just going to speak through it?
The slide is on, right? You can see?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So these are the people. I just want to, it leaves me now just one thing to do, which is to thank this whole ICW committee. And I'm so really happy with, I think all of us are so happy with them. So I just want to mention their names. We have, of course, the two co-chairs, project chair, Lin Tan and Adrian Lim. Without them, none of this would have happened. I'll tell you that when COVID came, our dreams were shattered. But look at the way these guys picked it up and just made this into a super, super duper conference, the best ever that I've had in my whole lifetime. Also want to thank Annie. Annie was the one who got us all our speakers. We have Shakun, who did a lot of the marketing for us, the outreach manager, Kelly Khan, sponsorship manager, Ho Choi Q, and the learning experience manager, Eileen Chi. So without all these people working in the background, we would have never got this done. Also in the middle there is Kevin Khan. You see, he has been posting in the social media, and our engagement on social media has gone up like the coronavirus curve, after Kevin postings every day. So which is really fantastic. So I would really like you to just, give them a very big thank you. And we're going to be able to allow you to unmute later soon after this. So and maybe you can, and oh yes, our exco, our wonderful exco this year. This is the whole team. Although you don't see all of them in the foreground, there's lots of work going in the background. And without all these people, we would not have made it this way.